I lost 2 days building a quote unquote smart AI agent app for my show notes, and it was a big problem. I got trapped in a rabbit hole, and I wanted to tell you about it so you don't make the same mistake. So everything with my show notes started off as a good idea. The problem I was trying to solve was I make this show every morning. It takes a lot of time to prepare. So since I make software, of course, I'm going to build a elaborate show notes thing that helps me do the research and put things into order so I can come in here and just speak to the camera and get my thoughts out there. I hate editing, so I'm trying to do all this with live recordings like I do in the morning. And then so they're not so messy, do some sort of editing and put them out on their own. I hate editing, so I'm using Descript, and that's something I will share with you later. But what started off as a simple show notes app soon spiraled into something complex. What I wanted to do was just build something that helps me go through the notes. But what I ended up doing is saying, oh gosh, this is a great kind of use case for to treat show notes almost like object-oriented programming. This is a classic developer mistake. So I went in and I started defining different types of segments for the show as classes. Then I put kind of methods on the method type things on these shows where I could say, okay, it's going to be this type of segment where I'm talking about a news story, but the method will be contrarian or something like that. And that would be a different type of lens that it would tell the story through. Then I decided, okay, now we need like functionals, like parameter type things. And what I could do is pass an argument into this object I had that would make it do something like, okay, this one needs a CTA. It needs to be between 7 and 10 minutes long. And I would describe the idea to the LLM and it would help me break my ideas down into story points. And I would, story bullet points. And I would decide which ones I wanted and which order I wanted them in. And it became this really fun to work on problem that was growing more and more complex. And I knew that because I've been testing this out this week where I've been trying to make my show notes in under an hour as a time limit. And what I found was I kept on adding more and more stuff to this, and I was spending more and more time working on the code and the logic behind my show notes app than actually building the thing, than actually using the thing, which is a big problem. So as soon as I started using it every day, it became clear to me that this was a problem. And what it cost me was about 2 days of time because yesterday I just ripped the whole thing apart and I said, I had a come to Jesus moment with myself. And I said, this thing is too complex and I want to simplify it. So what I did is I just strictly defined everything in a list of different types of segments I can have. I define what those segments include, and I simply just say I'm doing a morning show and I talk about what I want to do in the morning show. And then it tells me, okay, these are the segments that would match to that. And I add a few bullet points in there, and that's my show notes. It's way more simple. It's not as complex, but I can add on to it slower. And I think it's something that I can start using. Not to mention, I'm building a research agent that's helping me out a lot. And I'm building a show preparation where I can map these out for an entire week and capture my ideas. And there's all this other stuff that I need to build that follows my workflow. And I've reduced this down now to a small MVP type thing that I'm testing and can actually use, even if it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that you think it should have. And you're probably asking yourself, if you've watched this show before, is like, you preach this stuff all the time, boil it down to its smallest component and test it. How can someone like you get caught up in this trap? And it can happen because it's hard when you're building stuff yourself to segment the product manager side of your brain from the developer side of your brain. The developer in me wants to tinker around with this for forever. The product manager is telling me to get this thing shipped and go out the door. My marketing side of my brain is not even turned on yet, which are all problems, but I'll deal with that later. But some things I learned while building this is my tendency to go to an object-oriented building approach with this, even though I'm building an agent, is kind of a legacy from how we used to build apps, where that stuff was real helpful. And even when I was building agents in the past few years, I've had to be very explicit with the instructions that I give to the LLM about exactly what I need because the LLMs just simply weren't smart enough. They would wander away and not follow my directions. But the LLMs are getting smart enough now to where I don't have to be as precise with my language or even my prompts. I know you hear a lot of stuff from other sources that say become a prompt engineering expert. Well, what's actually happening with LLMs and AIs, it's getting smarter and smarter, is you don't have to be an expert in prompt engineering. That's going to become just like a legacy term. It's a marketing term, just like AI, that's going to just fade away in the future. People are not going to consider themselves an engineering prompter, an AI engineering prompter. AI is going to be smart enough to just know what you're saying and to ask you the right questions. Same with AI. When I hear people calling themselves, I'm an AI engineer or something like that. No, you're just somebody who builds products. AI is just a nameless tool that helps you do that, just like anything in the past. So that was one of the big lessons I learned was AIs are getting smarter and smarter, and I really need to lean in to their smartness and let them be smart for me rather than me trying to be smart and over define the way they should operate. So that's the big lesson. Don't waste 2 days like me.